The massive space station called Arena Prime floated in the darkness between three suns. It was the size of a small moon and built for one purpose only, to host the greatest fighting tournament in the galaxy. Every 3 years, the strongest warriors from across known space came here to fight for honor, glory, and the right to claim new worlds for their people. Hyun-woo stood at the window of his ship and watched the station grow larger as they approached. He was the commander of the human delegation, the first time his species had ever been invited to compete. Behind him, his three companions prepared for what everyone expected would be their quick defeat. Yoonji checked her medical supplies one more time. She was the team's doctor, a small woman with gentle hands who had saved more lives than she could count. Her job was to keep the team healthy, but she knew that in the arena, fighters often died. The rules allowed killing, and most alien species saw death as the natural end to any real fight. Taemin worked on his equipment, making sure every tool was perfect. He was their engineer and strategist, the man who studied their opponents and found their weaknesses. His computer screen showed data about the other fighters, creatures with claws like swords, skin harder than metal, and strength that could crush vehicles. The humans looked fragile compared to them. So-young sat quietly in the corner, her eyes closed in meditation. She was their fighter, chosen from among Earth's best warriors. She had trained in every fighting style humans knew and had studied the combat footage of alien fighters for months. Unlike her teammates, she seemed calm about what was coming. While others worried about facing monsters, she saw only another challenge to overcome. The ship docked with Arena Prime, and the humans stepped into a world built for giants. The corridors were wide enough for creatures 3 times their size. The air had a strange taste because it was mixed to suit many different alien species. Gravity was set higher than Earth normal to favor the larger, stronger fighters, who usually won the tournament. Their first stop was the registration hall, where they met the other competitors. The hall was enormous, with a ceiling so high that clouds formed near the top. Hundreds of beings filled the space, some walking, some flying, some moving in ways that hurt to watch. The largest group belonged to the Vorthak Empire. Their fighters stood 12 feet tall, with gray skin like stone and arms that ended in claws sharp enough to cut through steel. They had ruled the tournament for over 200 years, and their current champion was a monster named Krextal. He had fought in 50 battles and killed 47 opponents. The 3 who survived had never fought again. When Krextal saw the humans, he let out a sound like grinding metal that his people called laughter. His voice was deep and rough when he spoke in the common galactic language. "What are these small creatures? They look like children pretending to be warriors. Did someone bring their pets to the arena by mistake?" Other aliens joined in the mockery. The insect-like Zrithka clicked their mandibles in amusement. The energy beings called Fluxtar sparked with what might have been laughter. Even the plant-like Verdani rustled their leaves in a way that seemed dismissive. Hyun-woo stepped forward to address the crowd. He was not a large man by human standards, and he looked tiny next to the alien warriors. But he spoke with a clear, steady voice that carried across the hall. "We are humans from the planet Earth. We have come to compete in the tournament according to the ancient laws that say any sapient species may send a champion." The crystalline being who served as tournament director, Velthor, spoke in a voice like breaking glass. "Earth? Is that not the world your own scientists call a death world? A planet so dangerous that most species would die simply from breathing its air?" "That is correct," Hyun-woo replied. "Earth is what you call a death world." This caused a stir among the aliens. Death worlds were rare. Planets where everything was poisonous, where the weather could kill, where even the plants and animals were deadly. Most species avoided such places completely. The idea that an entire civilization had evolved on one was hard to believe. Tal leaned down until his massive head was close to Hyun-woo's. The human could smell the acid that dripped from the aliens' claws. "If you truly come from such a place, then you must be savage killers. But you look weak and soft. How did your species survive?" "You will see," Hyun-woo said simply. The tournament director explained the rules. Fights would be one-on-one in a circular arena 500 meters across. The floor was made of a material harder than diamond that could withstand the most powerful attacks. Fighters could use any natural abilities or weapons they could carry. The fight ended when one fighter died, surrendered, or could no longer continue. "Surrender is rare," Velthor noted. Most species consider it worse than death. To show weakness before enemies means your entire bloodline is shamed. Yunji spoke up for the first time. What if a fighter wishes to show mercy to a defeated opponent? The hall fell silent. The question was so strange that many aliens needed several seconds to understand what she had asked. Krextal's laughter was like stones falling down a mountain. Mercy in the arena? Small human. Mercy is what prey shows when it begs not to be eaten. Warriors do not show mercy. Warriors take victory or die trying. On our world, Yunji continued, the strongest predators often spare the weak. They take only what they need and let the rest live. Then your world breeds cowards, another Vorthak warrior said. Creatures that cannot even kill properly have no right to call themselves predators. The mockery continued for several minutes until Velthor called for order. The tournament would begin the next day. Champions would be selected by random draw for the first round. As the aliens dispersed to their quarters, many made jokes about how quickly the human would die. That night, the human team gathered in their small quarters to make final preparations. The room was designed for much larger beings, so the furniture was too big and the ceiling too high. It made them feel even smaller than they already were. They think we are weak, Taemin said as he reviewed the tournament data. Every species here has evolved to be a perfect killer. Natural weapons, armor like skin, enhanced strength. We have none of those things. No, So Young said quietly. We have something better. What? Yunji asked. We have choice. They are what evolution made them. We are what we chose to become. Hyunwoo nodded. Earth made us strong not by giving us claws or armor, but by teaching us to adapt. Every challenge we faced, we found a way to overcome. Every enemy we met, we either defeated or made into an ally. The aliens do not understand this, Taemin observed. To them, strength means the ability to kill. They cannot imagine strength that chooses not to kill. Tomorrow they will learn, So Young said. She stood and began her evening training routine, moving through forms that looked like a deadly dance. Her teammates had seen her fight before, but watching her now, they noticed something they had never paid attention to. Every move was designed not just to defeat an opponent, but to control them. Every technique could kill, but also could spare life. Outside their window, Arena Prime continued its slow rotation around the three suns. In less than 12 hours, the tournament would begin. Across the station, alien warriors prepared for battle in their own ways. Some sharpened claws or tested weapons. Others performed rituals to honor their war gods. A few meditated on the glory of dying in combat. None of them understood that they were about to witness something that would change their entire understanding of what it meant to be strong. The humans from the little death world were about to show them that the greatest power was not the ability to destroy life, but the wisdom to preserve it. The arena floor was covered in sand that had been stained red by the blood of countless warriors over the centuries. The stands rose up in terraced levels, holding 50,000 spectators from dozens of different species. The noise was incredible, roars, clicks, buzzes, and sounds that had no names in any human language. So Young walked into the arena wearing simple combat clothing from Earth. She carried no weapons except a small knife at her belt. Compared to her opponent, she looked like a child about to fight a giant. Her first opponent was a Krellian named Borthak. His people came from a world with heavy gravity and thin air. They had evolved thick armored skin and forearms that ended in bone clubs. Borthak stood 8 feet tall and weighed as much as 3 humans. He had never lost a fight because most opponents died from a single hit. The arena announcer's voice boomed across the stadium in a dozen languages. In the red corner, representing the Krellian Star Empire, the Bone Crusher, destroyer of 47 enemies, Borthak the Undefeated. The crowd roared approval. Borthak raised all 4 arms and smashed his bone clubs together, making a sound like thunder. In the blue corner, representing the planet Earth, fighting for the first time in the galactic arena, the human called So Young. The crowd's noise changed to confused muttering. Many spectators needed to look closely to see the small human standing calmly in the sand. Some laughed. Others placed bets on how quickly she would die. In the VIP section, alien leaders watched with interest. They had come expecting easy entertainment, but the humans' calm behavior puzzled them. Most first-time fighters showed fear, anger, or excitement. The humans showed nothing but quiet focus. The fight began with the sound of a massive gong. Borthak charged forward like a living boulder, his forearms swinging bone clubs that could shatter stone. The sand flew up from his heavy footsteps as he closed the distance in seconds. So Young did not run. Instead, she moved sideways at the last moment, so smoothly that it looked like she had simply appeared 3 feet to the left. Borthak's charge carried him past her, and his bone clubs hit only empty air. The crowd fell silent. They had expected the human to be crushed immediately. Instead, she had avoided the attack so easily that it seemed effortless. Borthak spun around and attacked again, this time more carefully. He swung his bone clubs in patterns that would cover every possible escape route. But So Young was not where the patterns expected her to be. She moved like water, flowing around the attacks without wasted motion. For 10 minutes, Borthak attacked with increasing fury while So Young simply avoided every blow. The Krellian was getting tired. His people were built for quick, devastating attacks, not long fights. Sweat began to drip from his armored skin. So Young finally moved forward. She struck Borthak 3 times in quick succession, once behind each knee and once at the base of his neck. They were not hard blows, but they hit exactly the right spots. Borthak's legs gave out and he crashed to the sand, unable to stand. The crowd was stunned into silence. The human had won without using a single weapon, without landing a single powerful blow. She had simply touched the giant 3 times and he was defeated. But what happened next shocked everyone even more. Instead of delivering the killing blow that tradition demanded, So Young knelt beside the fallen Krellian. She spoke quietly to him, her voice too soft for the crowd to hear. "You fought with honor," she said. "Your legs will work again in a few minutes. There is no shame in losing to a technique you have never seen before." Borthak stared up at her with confusion. In his culture, defeated warriors died or lived with shame forever. The idea that an enemy would offer comfort was impossible to understand. "Why do you not kill me?" he asked in broken common language. "Because killing you would serve no purpose. You are defeated. The fight is over. Now you can learn something new." So Young helped Borthak sit up and showed him how to massage his legs to restore feeling. Within minutes, he was able to stand again. The crowd watched in absolute silence as the human warrior helped her defeated opponent walk to the medical area. In the VIP section, Velthor's crystalline form flickered with confusion. What manner of warrior helps an enemy? Is this some form of psychological warfare? Hyunwoo, who was allowed to watch from the contestant area, smiled. "No, honored director. This is what we call basic decency." So Young defeated her opponent completely. Now she shows him respect. Respect? The voice came from Krextal, who had been watching from the champion's box. "This is weakness." The human had victory and threw it away. She should have taken the killing blow to show her strength. "She did show her strength," Yunji said quietly. "She showed that she was strong enough to choose mercy over killing." The next day brought So Young's second fight. Her opponent was Zrithka, an insect-like being with razor-sharp claws and the ability to spit acid. The insectoid had killed every opponent in the first round of attack, dissolving their armor and then cutting them apart. Zrithka skittered across the arena floor on 6 legs, moving faster than most eyes could follow. She attacked with a spray of acid that could eat through metal in seconds. So Young rolled away from the attack, but some of the acid splashed on her arm, burning through her sleeve and into her skin. The crowd cheered, expecting to see the human dissolved like so many previous opponents. But So Young showed no pain. She wrapped her burned arm quickly and continued to move. The fight lasted longer this time. Zrithka was faster than Borthak, but not as strong. So Young had to work harder to avoid the acid attacks and the slashing claws. Several times the insectoid's weapons came close enough to cut her clothing. Finally, So Young managed to get behind Zrithka and strike the nerve cluster that controlled the creature's legs. The insectoid collapsed, unable to move but still conscious and unharmed. Again, instead of finishing her opponent, So Young knelt beside the fallen warrior. "Your speed is remarkable," she said. "I have never fought anyone so fast. You have taught me something valuable." Zrithka's compound eyes stared at the human. In her culture, enemies were either food or threats to be destroyed. The idea of learning from an enemy was completely alien. "You speak strangely, mammal. Why do you not end this fight properly?" "The fight is ended. You cannot continue, so I am the winner. Killing you would not make me more victorious." So Young called for medical assistance and stayed with Zrithka until the arena doctors arrived. She even helped explain what she had done so the doctors could more easily treat the temporary paralysis. By the third fight, word had spread throughout the station. The human warrior was undefeated, but she had never killed an opponent. This was so unusual that betting pools had started on whether she would ever actually kill anyone. Her third opponent was a Vorthak warrior named Gorthan, younger brother to the champion Krextal. He came to the arena determined to restore his family's honor by killing the strange human who confused everyone. Gorthan was nearly as large as his brother, and just as deadly. His claws dripped with acid that could cut through any known armor. His skin was thick enough to stop most weapons. He had killed 12 opponents in previous tournaments. The fight was the most difficult yet. Gorthan was smarter than So Young's previous opponents, and he had studied her fighting style. He anticipated her movements and forced her to work harder for every advantage. For the first time, So Young was badly hurt. One of Gorthan's claws caught her across the ribs, leaving deep cuts that bled freely. Another attack left acid burns on her shoulder. The crowd could smell her blood on the arena sand. But even wounded, So Young continued to fight with the same calm control. She waited for her moment, and when Gorthan overextended himself on a powerful attack, she struck. Her blow hit a pressure point that shut down his nervous system temporarily. Gorthan fell to the sand, conscious but unable to move. He waited for the killing blow that would send him to join his ancestors in the afterlife. Instead, he felt gentle hands checking his pulse and breathing. "You are a worthy opponent," So Young told him. "Your brother will be proud of how well you fought." "Why?" Gorthan managed to whisper. "Why do you spare enemies? It makes no sense." So Young began applying medical supplies to her own wounds while she answered. "On my world, we learned that enemies can become allies. Today we fight, but tomorrow we might fight together against a common threat. Dead enemies cannot become friends." The crowd had gone completely silent. In 3 fights, the human had shown 3 different forms of mercy. Not weakness, but choice. She could have killed each opponent easily once they were defeated, but she chose not to. In the champion's box, Krextal stared down at the arena with something like fear in his eyes. He had never seen anything like this before. The human fought with deadly skill but chose life over death at every opportunity. What manner of creature shows such restraint? He asked his advisors. None of them had an answer. The final match had arrived. For the first time in 200 years, a non-Vorthak fighter had reached the championship bout. The arena was packed beyond capacity, with beings hanging from every available space to witness what everyone assumed would be the human's final fight. Krextal entered the arena like a force of nature. He stood 12 feet tall, his gray skin scarred from countless battles. Acid dripped from claws that were each as long as a human hand. He had fought in 50 championship matches and lost none. 47 opponents had died by his claws. The 3 survivors had never recovered enough to fight again. The crowd roared his name as he raised his massive arms. "Krextal! Krextal! Krextal!" The sound shook the entire station. So Young entered from the opposite side, looking impossibly small compared to the champion. Her previous fights had left their marks. Bandages covered acid burns and claw wounds. She moved carefully, favoring her left side where Gorthan had injured her ribs, but her eyes were as calm as ever. The contrast was so extreme that many spectators laughed. It looked like a child about to fight a mountain. In the VIP section, alien leaders watched with fascination. They had seen 3 fights where the human showed what they could only call impossible restraint. Now they would see if she could maintain that restraint against the most feared warrior in the galaxy. "The human will die," announced Lord Vextar of the hegemony. "Krextal has never shown mercy to anyone. He will not understand her strange fighting style." "Perhaps," said Queen Salona of the Crystal Courts. "But what if she wins? What if she defeats him and then shows him the same mercy she showed the others?" The alien leaders fell silent. The idea was too strange to fully consider. The arena announcer's voice boomed across the stadium. "Citizens of the galaxy, today you witness history. The undefeated champion Krextal faces the human So Young in single combat. Only one will leave this arena alive." The gong sounded. Krextal did not charge like the other fighters had. He was too experienced for that. Instead, he advanced slowly, his claws extended, studying his opponent. He had watched her previous fights and knew she was dangerous despite her size. So Young circled him carefully, looking for openings. This fight would be different from the others. Krextal was faster than his size suggested, and his reach was enormous. Every claw swipe could kill her instantly. They moved around each other for several minutes, neither making the first attack. The crowd grew restless, expecting immediate violence. But both fighters were too skilled to make careless moves. Finally, Krextal struck. His right claw swept through the air fast enough to cut steel. So Young ducked under it, but his left claw was already coming from the other direction. She threw herself backward, feeling the razor edge pass inches from her throat. The crowd exploded into cheers. The real fight had begun. For the next 20 minutes, they fought with skill that amazed even veteran warriors. Krextal's attacks came in patterns too fast for most eyes to follow. Each swipe of his claws was precise and deadly, but So Young moved like smoke, always just out of reach. Several times, Krextal's claws came close enough to cut her clothing or scratch her skin. The scent of human blood drove him into a frenzy, making his attacks even more vicious, but he could not land a solid blow. So Young struck back when she could, hitting pressure points and nerve clusters. But Krextal's size and natural armor made him difficult to damage. Her attacks slowed him down but did not stop him. The turning point came when Krextal made a mistake. Frustrated by his inability to catch the human, he put all his strength into a massive downward strike that would have cut her in half. So Young rolled aside at the last moment and Krextal's claws buried themselves in the arena floor. For just a moment, he was stuck. So Young did not waste the opportunity. She struck 3 times in quick succession, once behind each knee and once at the base of his spine. The blows were precise and powerful, targeting nerves that even Vorthak armor could not protect. Krextal's legs gave out and he crashed to the arena floor. The impact was so hard it cracked the diamond-hard surface. For the first time in 50 fights, the champion was down. The arena fell completely silent. 50,000 spectators held their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Krextal tried to stand, but could not. His legs would not obey his commands. He was helpless, lying on his back while his enemy stood over him. In Vorthak culture, this was the moment of ultimate shame. Death was preferable to such defeat. "End it," he growled. "Take your victory and kill me. I will not beg for my life." So Young knelt beside the fallen champion. Her movements were gentle. Nothing like what anyone expected from a victor over the most feared warrior in the galaxy. "I will not kill you," she said softly. "You fought with great skill and honor. You have nothing to be ashamed of." Krextal's eyes widened in shock. "What? You must kill me. I am defeated. It is the way of warriors. It is the way of your warriors." So Young corrected. "It is not the way of mine." She began checking his wounds with the skill Yunji had taught her. Krextal had acid burns from his own claws and several deep cuts where he had crashed into the arena floor. So Young cleaned the wounds carefully and applied medical supplies from her belt. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the victor tended to the defeated champion's injuries. Many aliens needed several minutes to understand what they were seeing. The concept was so foreign to their experience that their minds struggled to process it. "Why?" Krextal whispered. "I would have killed you without thought. I have killed dozens of opponents who were already defeated." "Why do you spare me?" So Young continued working on his wounds as she answered. "Because you are not my enemy anymore. The fight is over. Now you are simply an injured being who needs help. But I am your enemy. I represent everything you fought against." "No," So Young said patiently. "You represented your people in a contest. The contest is finished. Now you are Krextal, a warrior who fought well and lost fairly. There is no dishonor in that." Tears began to flow from the champion's eyes. In his entire life, no one had ever spoken to him with such kindness after he had been defeated. His culture taught that defeat meant death or eternal shame. The idea that someone could lose and still be worthy of respect was completely alien to him. "I do not understand," he said. "How can you show mercy to someone who would have killed you?" "Because mercy is not weakness," So Young explained. "Mercy is what separates warriors from killers. Anyone can take a life. Only the truly strong can choose to preserve one." In the VIP section, Velthor's crystalline form was flickering rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. "This is impossible. No warrior shows mercy to a defeated enemy. It goes against every natural instinct." Hyunwoo stood up to address the alien leaders. "Honored beings, what you have witnessed today is the true strength of Earth. We are what you call Deathworlders not because we are savage killers, but because we learned to be strong enough to choose mercy over vengeance." "Impossible," snarled Lord Vextar. "No species becomes dominant through mercy. Strength comes from the ability to destroy enemies, does it?" Taemin asked quietly. "Look at your champion. Look at the most feared warrior in the galaxy. He is broken not by violence but by kindness. So Young defeated him completely without killing him. Which is stronger, A dead enemy or a living one who understands they were wrong. Yunji stepped forward. In our medical training, we learn that healing requires understanding both how to cause damage and how to repair it. The same is true for warfare. True warriors must understand both how to destroy and how to preserve. On the arena floor, So-young helped Krextal sit up. The paralysis was already beginning to wear off as blood flow returned to his legs. Soon he would be able to stand again. What happens now? He asked. In my culture, I would be banished for losing. My family would be shamed. My name would be forgotten. In our culture, So-young said, you would be honored for fighting well against a difficult opponent. Loss in fair combat brings no shame. Only cowardice and cruelty bring shame. The crowd began to murmur as they realized what they were witnessing. The human had not just defeated their champion, she had broken their entire understanding of what victory meant. For centuries they had believed that might made right, that strength came from the ability to kill. Now they saw strength that chose life over death. Krextal struggled to his feet with So-young's help. He stood before the crowd that had cheered his name for decades. But now he was no longer their undefeated champion. He was something new, a warrior who had learned that there were things more powerful than claws and acid. I concede, he announced in a voice that carried across the silent arena. The human has won fairly. She is the new champion. The crowd erupted, but not in celebration. Confusion, fear, and something like awe mixed together in a sound unlike anything the arena had ever heard. They had witnessed something that challenged every belief they held about strength, victory, and what it meant to be a warrior. In the aftermath, as medical teams checked, both fighters and officials tried to process what had happened. One thing was clear to everyone present. The galaxy had just changed in a way that could never be undone. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours of So-young's victory, every inhabited world knew what had happened in the arena. The undefeated champion had fallen, but more shocking was how he had fallen. The human had won through mercy, not murder. On Arena Prime, chaos ruled the hours after the tournament. Alien dignitaries who had come to watch a simple fighting contest found themselves witnessing something that challenged the foundation of every warrior culture in known space. In the medical bay, Krextal sat on a bed designed for creatures his size, staring at his claws as if seeing them for the first time. Yunji worked nearby, treating the minor injuries he had sustained in the fight. The former champion had not spoken since leaving the arena. How are you feeling? Yunji asked as she finished bandaging a cut on his arm. Krextal looked at her with eyes that seemed older than they had been hours before. I do not know what I am feeling. There is no word in my language for it. Try to describe it. Empty, confused, as if everything I believed about strength was wrong. He flexed his massive claws. These have taken so many lives. I thought that made me powerful. But your warrior defeated me without killing anyone. She showed strength I never knew existed. Yunji sat down on a smaller chair nearby. On Earth, we have a saying. The strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire, but it is tempered with cool water. Strength without restraint breaks. Strength with mercy endures. Mercy. Krextal repeated the word slowly. In my language, the closest word means weakness shown to prey. But what she showed me was not weakness. It was something else. Something I do not understand. In the tournament director's office, Velthor met with the other members of the Arena Council. The crystalline being's form flickered with stress patterns that his species showed only during extreme crisis. This cannot be allowed to continue, declared General Thokran of the Iron Legion. If word spreads that mercy is strength, it will destroy the natural order. Warriors exist to eliminate threats. If they stop killing defeated enemies, chaos will follow. Perhaps, said Scholar Yithan of the Archive Worlds, but we must consider what we witnessed. The human did not simply defeat Krextal. She dominated him completely. Her victory was so absolute that she could afford to show mercy. Is this not a greater display of power than simple killing? The argument that followed lasted hours. Some council members wanted to declare the tournament invalid, claiming that mercy violated the spirit of combat. Others argued that the human had followed all rules and won fairly. But the real crisis was happening outside the council chambers. Across Arena Prime, alien warriors who had watched the fight were experiencing psychological breakdowns. The hegemony's champion, Vextar, had locked himself in his quarters and refused to see anyone. The Crystal Court's fighter, a being named Lear then, sat in meditation pose but had not moved or spoken since the tournament ended. Most disturbing was what happened to the insectoid warrior Zrithka, whom So Young had defeated in the second round. She had spent the day after her fight studying footage of her loss, trying to understand what had happened to her. The more she watched, the more confused she became. The mammal could have killed me easily, she told her hive mates through their mental link. When I was paralyzed, I was completely helpless. She could have dissolved me with my own acid or simply crushed my head. Instead, she helped me. She spoke kindly to me. She acted as if I was valuable even in defeat. The concept was so alien to insectoid thinking that it caused a cascade failure in her hive mind. Within hours, thousands of her species across several star systems were experiencing similar confusion. Their entire social structure was based on the idea that only successful fighters deserved to live. The idea that defeated warriors could be valuable was breaking their collective consciousness. Similar problems were occurring among other species. The Krellian fighter Borthak had returned to his homeworld and tried to explain what had happened to him. His people declared him insane and exiled him from their society. The idea that an enemy would help a defeated opponent was so impossible that they decided he was lying or suffering from brain damage. Dr. Yunji found herself busier than she had ever been. Alien warriors kept coming to her, not for physical injuries but for psychological help. They could not understand what they had witnessed, and it was driving some of them to madness. The human warrior broke something in my mind, explained a reptilian fighter named Sektar. I have killed 17 opponents in arena combat. I thought this made me strong, but now I wonder, was I strong or was I just a killer? Is there a difference? Kunji tried to explain human concepts of strength and mercy, but it was like trying to teach mathematics to beings who had never learned to count. The aliens had no frame of reference for what they had seen. The most disturbing case was a young Vorthak warrior named Gethlos. He was part of Krextal's fighting clan and had idolized the champion his entire life. Seeing his hero defeated and then shown mercy had shattered his understanding of reality. If Krextal can be beaten by mercy, he said to Yunji during one of their sessions, then everything my people believe is wrong. We build our entire civilization on the idea that the strong rule by killing the weak. But what if the truly strong do not need to kill? What if mercy is the ultimate strength? What would that mean for your people? Yunji asked gently. Gethlos stared at his claws, weapons he had been proud of since childhood. It would mean we are not warriors. We are just killers, and killers are weak compared to those who choose mercy. The psychological crisis was spreading beyond Arena Prime. Reports came in from across the galaxy of warrior cultures experiencing similar breakdowns. On some worlds, entire military academies had suspended training because their instructors could not answer students' questions about strength and mercy. The economic effects were immediate. Weapon sales dropped by 60% as warriors began questioning whether they needed so many tools of destruction. Medical supply companies saw unprecedented demand as beings who had never cared about healing suddenly wanted to learn. But the most significant change was happening among the arena's former champions. These were beings who had built their entire identities around their ability to kill efficiently. Now they faced the possibility that their greatest achievements were actually displays of weakness. Commander Haiyan Wu watched these developments with growing concern. He had expected So Young's victory to make a statement about human strength, but he had not anticipated the psychological earthquake it would cause. We may have made a mistake, he told his team during a private meeting. These beings are not equipped to handle the concept of mercy. We might have broken something that cannot be repaired. Taemin disagreed. No, Commander. We have not broken anything. We have revealed that it was already broken. These civilizations built themselves on a foundation of sand, the belief that might makes right. We simply showed them what real strength looks like. But look at the chaos we have caused, Yanwu protested. Entire star systems are in psychological crisis. We came here to compete in a tournament, not to destabilize galactic civilization. So Young, who had been quiet during the discussion, finally spoke. Sometimes breaking something is the only way to build something better. These beings have lived their entire existence believing that strength comes from the ability to destroy. Now they have seen strength that chooses to create and preserve instead. Yes, it is painful for them to realize they were wrong, but pain is often the first step toward wisdom. That evening, Velthor called for an emergency meeting with the human delegation. The crystalline being's form was dim, showing signs of extreme stress. "What have you done?" the tournament director asked without preamble. "Half the warriors on this station are having mental breakdowns. Reports are coming in of similar problems across dozens of worlds. You have created a crisis that threatens the stability of civilized space." Hyunwoo chose his words carefully. "Honored director, we came here to compete according to your rules. We have broken no laws and violated no customs. We simply fought as our people fight. Your people fight by showing mercy to enemies. Our people fight to protect what they value, not to destroy what they fear. Sometimes this requires killing, but only when necessary. Unnecessary killing is not strength, it is waste." Velthor's form flickered more rapidly. "Do you understand what you have done? For millennia, galactic civilization has been stable because everyone understood the rules. The strong rule, the weak serve, and conflicts are resolved through combat. You have destroyed that understanding. Have we?" Yunji asked. "Or have we simply shown that there are better rules? Look at your champion, Krextel. He was defeated completely, but he is not dead. He can learn from his loss and become stronger. A dead champion learns nothing. But if warriors stop killing defeated enemies, how will conflicts be resolved?" Taemin stepped forward. "The same way they always have been, but without the waste. Victory is still victory. Defeat is still defeat. The only difference is that the defeated live to understand why they lost." The meeting continued deep into the night, but no resolution was reached. The aliens could not understand how mercy could be strength, and the humans could not understand how intelligent beings had built entire civilizations on the idea that strength required killing. As dawned 6 months after the tournament, the galaxy was a different place. The changes had started slowly, with individual warriors questioning their beliefs, but soon spread to entire civilizations. What historians would later call the Mercy Revolution had begun with a single human showing kindness to a defeated enemy. The Grand Assembly of Worlds met on the neutral station, Nexus Prime, to address the crisis. Representatives from over 300 species gathered in the largest diplomatic chamber ever constructed. The air was thick with tension and the sense of hundreds of different worlds. Hyunwoo walked to the central speaking platform, feeling the weight of thousands of alien eyes upon him. He had been chosen to speak for humanity not because he was the strongest or the smartest, but because he could explain concepts that seemed impossible to most alien minds. "Honored representatives," he began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. "6 months ago, my colleague So Young competed in your tournament and won. Since then, many of you have experienced what you call a crisis. You have seen your warriors question their beliefs, your cultures struggle with new ideas, and your civilizations face uncertainty." A roar of protest came from the Vorthak delegation. Their new speaker, since Krextal had refused to return to his homeworld, slammed massive claws against his speaking podium. "The human speaks of crisis as if it were a small thing," the Vorthak shouted. "Our entire society is collapsing. Warriors refuse to fight. Champions exile themselves rather than face opponents. Our young no longer understand what strength means." Similar protests came from dozens of other delegations. The effects of So Young's demonstration of mercy had spread far beyond anyone's expectations. The hegemony's new representative, speaking for General Vextar, who had not left his quarters in months, described planets where military academies had closed because instructors could not explain why killing was necessary. The Crystal Courts reported that their warrior castes were abandoning combat entirely and becoming healers or builders instead. But not all the changes were seen as problems. Scholar Yethan of the Archive Worlds stood to address the assembly. "While others speak of crisis, I must report unprecedented peace in the archive systems. For the first time in recorded history, we have gone 6 months without a single territorial war. Conflicts that once led to the deaths of millions are now being resolved through negotiation. This caused another wave of discussion. The archives were known for their detailed record-keeping, and their reports carried significant weight." Dr. Sylvan of the Medical Coalition added her voice. "The archive scholar speaks truth. Medical supply companies throughout known space report that demand for healing equipment has increased by 300%, while weapon sales have dropped to historic lows. Beings who once saw medicine as weakness now seek to learn the arts of healing." Hyunwoo waited for the noise to die down before continuing. "Honored representatives, you call this a crisis because it challenges your understanding of strength. But perhaps your understanding was incomplete. Impossible," shouted the Krellian delegate. Strength is simple, the ability to destroy enemies. This has been true since the first life crawled from primordial seas. Taemin stepped forward to join his commander at the speaking platform. Respected delegate, if strength is only the ability to destroy, then what do you call the ability to create? Is building a civilization not stronger than destroying one? Is healing a wound not stronger than causing one? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Many delegates struggled to find an answer that fit their traditional beliefs. Yunji joined them at the platform. On Earth, we learned that the strongest predators are also often the most capable caregivers. A parent protecting its young shows mercy to non-threats while being utterly ruthless toward actual dangers. This is not weakness, it is intelligent application of strength. But mercy in combat makes no sense, protested the insectoid representative. If you defeat an enemy and do not kill them, they can return to fight you again. So Young finally stepped forward. Her appearance caused a stir throughout the chamber. Many of the representatives had watched footage of her fights, but seeing the small human who had defeated the galaxy's greatest champion was still shocking. Honored delegate, she said quietly, you assume that an enemy shown mercy remains an enemy. This shows a misunderstanding of both mercy and strength. She gestured toward the gallery where non-voting observers sat. Please welcome my friend Krextal, former champion of the arena. The massive Vorthak warrior stood up in the gallery. His appearance caused gasps throughout the chamber. Many representatives had assumed he was dead or in exile. Instead, he looked healthier and more peaceful than anyone had ever seen him. I was this human's enemy, Krextal said in a voice that carried to every corner of the chamber. I intended to kill her without mercy, as I had killed 47 others before her. She defeated me completely. By the laws of combat, she had the right to take my life. He paused, looking directly at the Vorthak delegation that had disowned him. Instead, she showed me mercy. Not weakness, mercy. She helped heal my wounds. She spoke to me with respect. She treated a defeated enemy as if I still had value. The chamber was silent, hanging on every word. That mercy changed me more than any defeat could have. I understood for the first time that strength is not the ability to destroy. It is the wisdom to know when destruction is unnecessary. Today I am stronger than I ever was as champion, because I no longer waste my strength on meaningless killing. Another being stood up in the gallery, Zrithka. The insectoid So Young had defeated in the second round. I also was her enemy. I also received mercy when I deserved death. This human taught me that defeated enemies can become allies if they are shown that their loss came from inferior tactics, not inferior worth. More beings stood up. Vorthak the Krellian, Gethlos the young Vorthak warrior, even representatives from species whose champions had only watched the fights but been changed by them. One by one, they testified to the power of mercy over murder. The testimonies continued for hours. The pattern was always the same. Beings who had built their identities around their ability to kill, discovering that their greatest strength came from choosing not to kill. But the most powerful testimony came from an unexpected source. High Admiral Zektor of the Conquest Fleet, one of the most feared military leaders in the galaxy, requested permission to speak. For 30 years, he said, I have led fleets that conquered 17 star systems. I believed that strength came from the ability to destroy enemy forces completely. I was wrong. He gestured to a data display that showed star charts. 3 months ago, I applied human mercy principles to a rebellion in the Outer Rim. Instead of destroying the rebel fleet, I disabled their ships and offered terms. Instead of executing their leaders, I listened to their grievances. The result, a conflict that should have lasted years, was resolved in weeks. The rebels are now among my most loyal officers because they understand they were defeated by superior wisdom, not superior firepower. The data was undeniable. Conflicts resolved through mercy took less time, cost fewer resources, and created more stable outcomes than those resolved through violence. As the testimonies ended, Velthor took the central platform. The tournament director's crystalline form had stabilized over the months, adapting to new realities. The evidence is clear, Velthor announced. The human concept of mercy as strength has proven effective in ways our traditional methods never achieved. But this creates a problem. How do we restructure galactic civilization around principles most of us do not understand? Hyunwoo returned to the platform. Honored Director, Earth offers to help. We propose the establishment of a new institution, the Academy of Applied Mercy, place where beings from all species can learn to understand, strength that chooses preservation over destruction. Where would such an academy be located? Asked Scholar Yithan. So Young answered, We have reached an agreement with the Arena Prime Authority. The combat arena will be converted into a training facility. Instead of teaching beings how to kill efficiently, it will teach them how to resolve conflicts through superior wisdom and strategic mercy. The proposal sparked hours of debate. Some species remained convinced that mercy was weakness and that the humans had somehow tricked their champions. Others saw the practical benefits and wanted to learn more. The final vote was closer than expected, but the proposal passed. The Academy of Applied Mercy would be established, with So Young as its first director and Krextal as her chief instructor. In the months that followed, the Academy's influence spread throughout the galaxy. Military leaders learned that showing mercy to defeated enemies often converted them into valuable allies. Diplomats discovered that conflicts could be resolved more efficiently when all parties understood that defeat did not mean destruction. The economic effects were remarkable. Resources that had been spent on weapons were redirected toward infrastructure and exploration. Planets that had spent centuries preparing for war began focusing on trade and cultural exchange. But perhaps